Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm State Senator Henry Martin, and I am the ranking member of the Children's Committee, the ranking senator on the Children's Committee. I'm here along with my ranking member from the House, Ann Dauphinais. The author, Carl Anderson, wrote, "An important measure of decency and goodness of any society is its respect for the life and dignity of the people within it. And that includes our children. Today we are here because we want to protect our children. We want to protect them from reading and viewing graphic material that depicts and describes sexual conduct that is obscene and extremely offensive. We're not here to ban any pieces of literature or artistic expression, but we are here to make sure that the material and artistic expression that is given to young people in our libraries and public libraries across our state is age appropriate. We want to make sure that if the average person would find it obscene, it doesn't find its way into the hands of innocent children. We do not support allowing pornographic, sexually explicit material into the hands of our children. We simply want to make sure that the reading material that is given to young children is age appropriate in our libraries. Our concern is age inappropriate content. This group of people here, legislators and parents, as one, we're going to continue to speak out for parent rights as well as protecting our children. I'm going to pass this along now to Representative Ann Dauphinais.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here this morning. I want to make it really clear that our opposition to these bills is not about banning books. We're not trying to ban Huckleberry Finn, The Mockingbird, and some others that were mentioned. We're really looking to put minor children in a place where they're not exposed to that in public school libraries. So the focus should be really on local parental control with that in the boards of education. This bill has put limitations on those controls, and we really want to put it back in the hands of the parents and the local BOEs. Those are the ones that should be making the decisions. This is really a parental rights issue if we all look at it and really look deep. Society already does things to protect children. We don't let minor children purchase magazines such as Hustler and Playboy inside of gas stations or other stores. Why would we make this kind of information and graphic pictures and language available in our public school libraries where we have minor children? The parents wouldn't even know these books are in the libraries. You would send your child to school, they may look at it while they're there, they may never know. One of the testimonies given a few days ago by Dr. Amy Chai said that once a child sees these pictures and graphics, they can't unsee it. It was a pretty profound statement. So we're really about protecting our children and wanting this ability to be left in the hands of local control. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm going to introduce some other people that will expand on what we're talking about. Some are going to show you some graphics that are available. Some are going to talk to you about the dangers of what happens when a child's exposed to pornography. So I'll let Representative Gail Mastrofrancesco come up and speak.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you, everyone. So I want to just kind of reiterate what Senator Martin and Representative Dauphinais had said, is that this issue is not about banning books. It's about keeping sexually explicit material out of the hands of minors. We did have a public hearing in Children's, and we have heard from many parents that their children were in the schools, in the public schools, were exposed to these books that have sexually explicit material in them. And that's what we are trying to avoid. And I want to just kind of show you a couple of graphics of some of the information that is in the books. So this is one of them. And I would ask anybody out there, do you want your minor child to see this in school? Another one here, that these are in the hands of minor children in public schools. We've heard it from the parents when they testified that they do exist in the schools. All we are trying to do is to tell the schools, put some language in the bill to make sure that this is not in the hands of minors. Another one, that they are so graphic, I can't even read it out loud because I'm actually embarrassed that this language is actually in here. So I think people really need to see what's in these books. There's a bunch of books here that you can certainly thumb through that we know that are in the public schools today. So that is our mission and is our goal today, to make sure that there is some language. There is a couple of bills out there. There's one in children's. I believe there's another bill in education that is trying to actually protect the schools and the librarians. And I would say this, we heard from Senator Duff, who mentioned that these books are not in the public schools. We disagree. We have proof of it. We've had parents testify to it. We have been called crazies by a senator. And the other senator on the Children's Committee, Representative Senator C.C. Marr, said that these books should not be removed because people feel that they are offensive. And I would ask you if you think these are offensive. I think they are. So this issue absolutely needs to be addressed. That's what we're here to do here today. I'm going to, well, let me just mention one more thing that I realized today. That bill that is in the Children's Committee and in the Education Committee, those bills exist today because parents have challenged these books that are in the public schools. That is why that bill exists today, to protect the schools, to protect the librarians, and to really shut down the voices of parents today. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to Representative Van Dauphinais.
Thank you, Representative, and I just wanted to, put something in I didn't say earlier. If these books were read to children outside of the school by an adult per se, maybe an adult male reading them to a child, many people would consider that grooming, and there would be potential legal ramifications taken. If you really look at these books and see the graphics in them, I urge you to do that. Our next presenter is a parent who actually experienced this, and we'll talk about her own personal experience in the schools, and it's Mona Caldwell.
Thank you. My name is Mona Caldwell. I am the mother of 3 children, and I've spent over 30 years in education. I've worked in schools, both school libraries, and I've worked in public libraries. My husband and I actually published a children's book in 2009, and I wrote my senior college essay on the illiteracy in America and the economic cost. So I care a lot about libraries, books, reading, literacy. My children are all great readers. When we returned to Connecticut in 2014, my son was going into 6th grade, and he was given a book by the librarian, and it was his summer reading project. And the book is called Ashfall. So this is the book that the librarian had 10 and 11-year-old children reading. My son got to the 8th page and read a swear. He felt uncomfortable, said, "Mom, I don't want to read this book." So I said, okay, I picked it up. We're readers. I read it. I couldn't finish it. The mom gets raped. There's disrespect of the police officers. There's drug use. There's sex. There's underage drinking. It's a horrible, horrible book. My son and his friends were 10 and 11 years old. This is what the librarian had on her reading list for them to read as recommended by libraries across America. My school district didn't agree with it. The teachers didn't agree with it. The Board of Education didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with it. And we were able to prevent children from having to read this. This is available in middle schools to this day. He picked up the second book that they recommended, The Eye of the Minds. This is about a serial killer who gets to children through video games and has them commit suicide. The winner of the book at the end transforms from a human to a transhuman. This was for 10 and 11-year-old kids, and let's just put this in context here. These children still believe in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. These are the books that are in middle schools across the state of Connecticut. And these are words. Fast forward to today. You go into a school and 10 and 11-year-old children can pick up books like Let's Talk About It. This has a chapter, a whole chapter for kinks and fantasies, telling children to go online, pay for porn sites because then it's more reliable, and have chats with professional pornographic people and make friends with them so that they can get good advice on sex. There's a whole chapter in this book, and this is in libraries in Connecticut. It's been challenged across the nation, and our librarians are still putting this in places where children can get it. Another book, You Know Sex. Children are allowed to look at this book because it's supposed to teach them about sex. This book, I won't even tell you about some of the stuff on the inside because it's so graphic. And it's insane that children are being exposed to this, but I encourage people to look through this book because these are the things that kids are picking up. And I know we've already seen some of the pictures thanks to Gail passing them around, but these are our children. We just want to protect them. So how do pieces of legislation that are going to keep parents from being able to have any influence over what their children see, how is that going to help us as a community? I can't see that it will. Parents need to be involved. Anybody in education wants parents involved. Every librarian can't read every book. So wouldn't it be better if boards of education and parents and teachers and librarians can all work together? And just like we're talking about today, this is about a parental rights issue. We should never be blocking parents from the ability to control what their kids can and cannot be exposed to in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. And as I described earlier with regard to grooming our children, in the scenario I played out with any individual getting one of these books and then reading them to a neighbor child or anybody really, they would likely be considered grooming. And we have Dr. Stephen Ward here today that is going to talk about the profound effects of children exposed to pornography and what that brings them into an adulthood. So thank you, Dr. Stephen Ward.
Good morning. Thank you for coming and listening. So I'm an internal medicine physician. I practice primary care here in Connecticut, and I've been practicing for about 16 years or so. And what I can share with you is some anecdotal experience. Over the past several years, what I've noticed is young adults, primarily men, ages 18 through, let's say, their 20s or early 30s, who are coming in with anxiety, depression issues, relationships that are broken, and so forth, many things. There are many potential causes of all of that. But on further questioning and taking a deep dive, what I've often found is that many of those men are struggling with pornography addiction that they're really battling and are unable to shake. In some cases, I'm asked to prescribe Viagra or Cialis to men in their 20s who really should not have any physical need for a prescription of that nature. But there's also the psychological impact and the shaming impact and the anxiety, depression that is known to be linked to pornography addiction. We also know that first exposure to pornography is age 11 or younger. There are even reports as early as age 9. So in the elementary schools even, into the middle schools, we have this phenomenon where material such as this that directly informs children and tells them to go to the internet for more information that is supposedly safe, well, that's what they do. And they engage in pornography use, and pornography in and of itself is riddled with its own whole host of problems, such as the exploitation of women and men, as well as sex trafficking and other things. That's not good. I think we can all agree upon that. But that's what they do. This is now a phenomenon where young children in middle schools and even earlier are going online at the recommendation of materials such as this without parental knowledge, without the involvement of other important people in their lives, such as those that we elect to the Board of Education, school principals and school faculty and staff, social workers, and so forth, because of an edict that the state might put down that will limit a parent's ability to protect their own children. So I support what has been already said, and I would also take it to the next step and just give you my experience as evidence that these problems linger well into adulthood and have far-reaching ramifications. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warden. I just wanted to mention one thing. He hit on something that I think is important too, the internet. Parents have the ability to control whether a child gets a computer, looks on the internet, has a cell phone. When they go into public school libraries, they have no control over what their child may or may not see. I think when I spoke earlier about you can't unsee what you've seen, children may not want to come home and talk about that, and they may be frightened. All kinds of things could come out of that, but I just wanted to kind of touch upon that as well, and I'm going to lead it back to Senator Martin.
Thank you. Again, this is not about banning books or artistic expression, banning artistic expression. It's about protecting our children, and for some of us, myself in particular, is protecting our grandchildren as well. So, and those are parental rights specifically that we are in protecting our children. It is a parental right that we do have. So to conclude our speaking order here, I'd like to introduce Senator Rob Sampson.
Thank you very much, Senator. Good morning, everyone. Frankly, I'm here because I wanted to support my colleagues at this press conference with respect to how the press has handled it so far. I think that the press has done a terrible job of covering this story as it has evolved through the legislature over the last couple of months. What we're talking about is a policy shift. You know, currently, it is up to parents through their locally elected boards of education to determine what material ends up in a classroom. They determine ultimately what is acceptable as curriculum. They determine what books should be in the school library, and in fact, they determine who the school librarian is because they elect the Board of Education members who have the power to hire that person. And there's a policy shift being proposed by the majority party, and that is to take away that local control, that parental authority, and replace it with a government mandate, effectively, that protects librarians, protects them both from boards of education and from the parents in that community. And I just think that's a dangerous policy shift. I would imagine that most librarians do a good job and that they have the best interest of the children in mind. But we all know that there are wide-ranging ideas on what is acceptable social behavior, and we've seen politics being injected into the school realm and environment in other ways. And this is just another way where I'm afraid that there are going to be some librarians who have their own views on alternative lifestyles, the age at which it's appropriate to show pornography to children. And if they do so, that is not going to give the parents the ability to react the way that they could under current law. So I'm here to stand in solidarity with my colleagues just to point out that this policy shift is dangerous. Just like in any realm of government, it is far better to have people in control, particularly when it comes to determining what's acceptable for their children, than to put some bureaucrat in charge and do it based on some government mandate. And I want to just reiterate what's been said several times here before, which is that no one's trying to ban books. I've seen it reported repeatedly over and over and over again. Banning books is the practice of preventing books from being printed, from being sold, from being distributed. No one's trying to do that. No one here objects to these books existing or being available or even potentially being in a public library. What they object to is their availability to minor children. There needs to be someone who has the intelligence and the wisdom to say that books like this, with the graphic imagery and the adult ideas that are in here do not belong in front of 10-year-olds. And I'm afraid that's going to go away if the policies that are being proposed by the majority party in this building are passed. And that's what we want to protect from. No one's banning anything. It's about age-appropriate material, as has been mentioned many times before. And I think that's it. And with that, we'd be happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all being in attendance here.
Thank you so much, and I urge for you to get in touch with your local school board of eds and be very vocal with regard to these books and do your research. Thank you so much.